So Ray, welcome. This is fun for me, that someone that I've known for what
Couple
feels like a
years.
generation now because of what's happened with the world since you and I first met. But
Mhm.
to watch the growth of Refresh Glass and your journey, and how you've been received, and the ups and downs of your company, and your focus on something greater than profit, and what that's meant for your organization. Like, it's kind of like I know a little bit of the story already, so I'm super excited for the people who are going to watch that, like, the revelations about when you try to do something to the degree that you've tried to do it, and the complexity that goes along with
Sure.
trying to achieve that, in addition to having a purpose-centric focus. It just makes it that much fun for me. So, but who are you? Where are you from? What do you do? Why do you do it? Like, do your thing, man. Talk to the
Oh,
people.
geez. How long do I have? That's a lot. That was like 4
You have
questions at once.
well, obviously I'm going to ask you some follow-up stuff. So, just like what what is it? What's going on behind your head back there, and why is that important? I guess is
Sure. I love this spot because I kind of sprouts from my head if I sit in the right spot.
it's great.
So I was raised in Southern California in the concrete jungle. You couldn't see one city to the next. I didn't see a cow until I was 9, and I thought it was crazy kind of thing. LA kid, long hair, loved surfing and all the things. But really, I mean, my ethos, I've always loved creating stuff. My dad was a fashion designer, and my mom ran regions of retail stores when I was a kid. So I feel like I kind of got a good dose of both. The
Yep.
left brain, right brain. I ended up, instead of going to art school, and I loved drawing and building my own BMX bikes as a kid, I got a engineering degree and was trained at Toyota and worked for an aerospace company in manufacturing engineering, which is just basically manufacturing efficiency, before I started Refresh Glass. And I still do art in my free time and play a lot of ice hockey.
Well, so all right, because there's parts of that I knew, parts of that I did not know. So how did you? So this is, it's interesting how many folks in life are taught to believe that you have to have either strength in one side of your brain or another. So either you have a propensity to one side of it, and that's just the way it is, and there's no hope for the other side of it, or you're on the other side of that, and isn't that such a pity because, oh, maybe if you had just this other piece, you could be so much more dynamic. But to me, like, I think we all have elements of both sides of that in us, and
Everyone does. Yeah.
it's how can you stay in touch? So when you went off to be an engineer, how were you still expressing yourself as an artist? Like, how were you still scratching that itch while you were being an engineer guy?
So because I do so much art, I actually have my first professional photography gallery show next year that I'm really excited
Yeah.
about.
Yeah. I've seen
But
some of your work, and it's awesome.
thanks. I really enjoy it. It's kind of I have so many people during my week, and I love people, but sometimes I recharge by myself. So I'll go out there with the rattlesnakes and walk around on the weekends and shoot, and I really enjoy it. But it's a flow space for me. So, I mean, to answer your question specifically, and I do talk on this topic a lot, kind of similar events like you had spoken about with the purpose-driven conscious capitalism type of thing, is just because you're right-handed doesn't mean you should cut off your left arm, and so I think everyone has a propensity to lean and process emotionally or logically, more so than another. My tendency is very much engineering, cause and effect, interconnectedness, and I've really learned how to flex my emotional side at the same time. So for me, the synonym for art is eliciting an emotional response. So when I do photography, for example, or pencil drawing or design my own furniture, I always, it's the same as the way I engineer. So I have an initial design with intent for function and eliciting emotion. So both structural left brain and emotional right brain. And I use tools and materials and processes to achieve the desired result of my design. So artwork works the same way, except I use a camera or a pencil,
Right.
to make the art. But the intention of art is to elicit emotional response. The
Right.
intention of engineering is function and utility most often. So when I was an engineer, to answer your question specifically, I got a lot of fast movement in my career because I worked with people. I treated them as people, emotional people. And I think as an engineer, I got a lot of compliments from my first operations manager, who's actually a really good friend of mine now. He actually just came to consult for a refresh class, which is an awesome experience for me. But the cool part about what he's so good at doing and what he worked to grow in me is that there's always emotion in relationships in every workplace or in personal settings. It doesn't ever stop. You don't ever not need the other wing in any situation.
Well, and to me, all right, so that's a perfect segue into the culture portion of the discussion because so there you are, and you have this curiosity about design and the mental acuity to be able to create product to be an expression of the emotional response that you're trying to elicit. Like that's the secret sauce of the product that you've made is its
It's part of
ability to do that.
it. Mhm.
And most people forego the story for other considerations that completely ruin the emotional connection that they could create in the process. And it's so mind-boggling. So how when you realized, all right, refresh class, and we'll tell the story here so that people get a better understanding of what it is you actually make. But here you are with this breakthrough that you believe is going to allow you the opportunity to really create a whole new set of items in a marketplace that previously maybe didn't even exist. Oh my
Mhm.
God, I created my own marketplace. How cool is this? With these
Mhm.
amazing products but I need more people to help me do this. I can't do it all by myself. How do you then go like, what were you looking for in the people that you wanted to bring in to help you make this be a thing? Like, how did you make those choices?
What people? Sorry,
Like
employees,
expert,
investors,
you're
clients,
like,
vendors.
yeah, all of the above. I need people to help me figure out equipment. I need people to give me money. I need to figure out how to actually make these products. I'm sure a lot of it was your own IP, but eventually you need to bring people into the fold. And like, not
Sure.
everyone just looks at an idea like this and goes, sure, here's a bunch of money. Like, I'm all excited about like, so how was that part of the journey? How did you set yourself up to try to be successful that way?
So my path was very personal. At each stage for me, something huge was missing enough for me to hard pivot to get out. So for example, when I left my aerospace engineering position, I was director of manufacturing technology in my late 20s for $1 billion company. I had kind of a very senior corporate wide role for being my age,
Yeah.
and I left that because, and this is, I call it my quarter life crisis because I think it's funny because I think that every 5 to 7 years, everyone needs to really think about hard pivoting and why what's not working isn't working. But what I essentially did is I thought Western paradigm, I needed to have a resume, and I lived in Huntington Beach and I was driving the hot rod that I had built in college. I mean, I had the position title that I wanted, aerospace engineering manager, yada yada, and what happened is they didn't let me play with the fun toys anymore because I was in charge of all the manufacturing equipment that I loved, and they wasn't allowed to play with it because I had to manage it. And so all of a sudden I was a maker shoved into people and schedules and budgets, which is really expletive hysterical because now I do people and schedules and budgets. But there's a big design component to me launching new products to market and building strategic relationships. And some of the people we're talking to right now are absolutely ridiculous. So, I mean, to answer that question is I always think in terms of Plato's three, so the true, the beautiful, and the good is basically your capacity for needing logic and function, and emotion, which could be seen as art or style for my products, that we make for our team. And then the good is living your values, which I intimately tie to purpose. It's like purpose lived is making decisions using your values as the guide,
Mm-hmm.
from a Joseph Campbell mentoring Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
So when I look to build relationships with different stakeholders, being internal or external, everyone can say they can hear the engineering brain in my words, So internal, investors, vendors, employees, community partnerships that would be external, customers would be external. Our relationship is external for the most part. So what I look to do is to figure out how I can create value exchange for that employee to give them emotional, psychological safety, a place where they enjoy working with their buddies, logical compensation packages, all the tools they need to perform their job, and know that we live our purpose all the way through the whole system, hiring, discipline, appreciation, through the whole thing. So I think in terms of these three all the time. I call it left wing, right wing steering. And sometimes it brings up the political conversation because of the wings, or you can think of it like riding a bicycle, using your left leg only and not your right leg, even if one leg's stronger than the other, or one arm, and the values is the steering. So logic, emotion, and values I incorporate into every relationship. And I've done this for long enough that I can articulate the synonyms for it. So for our product, it's style, function, and purpose. Style being the emotional component, function being the logical, and purpose being, the impact. We work with the Phoenix Children's Hospital, the US EPA ordered classes from us this year as an indicator of what US environmentalism looks like, So I really think about all three all the time.
Yeah, well, and I'm certain there will be people who will encounter this discussion and have it be like, oh my God, Ray is so to the point that it makes more sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And only when you've been so close to it for so long can you be in a position where you can make it seem very simple to someone who may not be as well educated on the topic. And to me, this is the greatest gift of teaching, is when you can make a complex idea seem simple to a majority of people, regardless of their learning ability. Like that's when
really
you're winning.
Yeah. And I do give hour-long speeches at conferences about it. So I've been forced to hyper articulate, the examples and analogies, because it's one thing. There's something called Bloom's taxonomy. It's something that mostly teachers have heard of, but it's basically introducing concepts to others and taking it through rote memorization to understanding to application. Like Joe Polish used to work in carpet cleaning, so he can give marketing examples for carpet cleaners, but to give examples in the highest level synthesis to where you can give a carpet cleaning example and someone in sales and promo can apply those concepts.
Yep.
Is the top of educating, not just being an expert, someone who can shoot beautiful pictures, but showing someone else how to shoot beautiful pictures is kind of like the master level, of getting people to not only understand it, but apply it, and then apply it to a different scenario than they were taught.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Okay. So how many folks are running around your place on a day in and day out basis, give or take?
Over 20 right now.
All right. So 20 is not nothing.
Huge.
That's a decent amount of people. That's the the brake truck loves to come to a place that's got 20 employees because there's enough people to buy stuff. So we know we got a decent sized crowd when the food trucks show up.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed any gravitational pull personality wise because of this shared purpose thing that goes on within the employees? Like, do you see it in action that you can articulate?
They're very proud to tell their family and friends, when the what do you do conversation comes up for them. I work for this company and we make this, and they have pictures on their phone and of the products we make, and they're always excited to hear about our new collaborations. We do Nike's company store, and selling to the US EPA of them picking us as one of the examples, in the entire United States. So there are some Anthony Bourdain pictures using our glasses, that we have, that they take pride in. But really, as terrible as it is to say, even though everyone understands it's true on some level, life is a very selfish engagement with what benefits you. And what I found through all the years of hiring employees and spending lots of my day hanging out with them and working together is that, actually here, I'll go here. The Joseph Campbell and The Power of Myth, one of my favorite things, because I've watched that more times than a 5-year-olds watch their favorite animated full-length feature, because I think the dude's so smart and sage. But he said that people don't actually want purpose. They want to feel alive. Mm-hmm. So what we've done, what I think is a good job, and there's been some reinforcement, especially lately, there's been some very fascinating things that have been going on with us growing so fast, is that people want a place where they enjoy working with the other people there. And for us, work is work. And if your mouth's moving, you got to keep your hands moving too. It's still work, but they can listen to their music and they come to work and spend time with people that they truly enjoy. So who we bring onto our team is very important to me. And we get insert the name here. We get the people that aren't a good fit out fast.
Yeah. Well, and like what I know is the interview questions that I'm going to ask you are most likely not like any other interview questions you've been asked by a prospective employer, because I'm not really looking at your resume. I want to talk to you as a person. And I want to get a chance to really understand who it is that I want on my team and how do you compare. And there's only a few handful of questions that I really need to ask in order to have a really good understanding, but it comes from the quantity of time invested in that knowledge. And then the repetition of looking at how people respond to when you make these inquiries in a way that gives you really good insight as to what's in the heart of the person that you're talking to. Because to me, like tell me what you think, but there's empty chairs at most places. And most of the time, the reasoning behind that is the people who could fill those jobs don't feel comfortable with the people and the company that they might go do that job at.
Yeah, I think there's multiple factors to that one, but it's part of it for sure.
For sure. And knowing that the boss is using the same set of hiring criteria that they used when I came aboard and I felt good about that, then it gives me a lot more confidence that maybe the next people behind me who are coming are going to be good too. And maybe we're going to have a good place to work, because we've all been in environments where it's not a good place to work. And my God, that's no fun.
Yeah, it sucks.
It's the absolute worst. All right. So we see them like getting comfortable. They're feeling safe. They're being productive. The team is growing. How does your approach beyond profit work on the other side, on the sales side? Where does this factor in for you in the mechanics of the sales process and what it means for your company for business development perspective?
Good question. So Charlie Johnson jumped on with us at Refresh Glass, so we rescue wine bottles from the local community and turn them into drinking glasses and vases and other functional items that you can gift to internally to your employees or investors, or externally, to clients, either for client relationships or even lead gen. We do a lot of lead gen actually too, which is super fun to chat about how to leverage gifting, to build more good relationships. But the way that I approach it is a lot of the questions that I get in interviews, whether it be on TV or podcasts or whatnot, are they lean to binary often. So people will tell me like, how do you use purpose in your job? In having grown Refresh Glass to the point, we're going to be doing soon over 2,000 glasses a day, starting from my garage 15 years ago, and I want to do over 1 million a year. coming up, and I think that we're going to hit it. But my answer to your question is my whole platform, my belief system has to do with non-duality is a fancy philosophical way of putting it, but interconnectedness. And so with my example that I used earlier about left pedal, right pedal handlebars, for the bicycle analogy, or it could be left engine, right engine steering on an aircraft where you're at 30,000 feet. If you're going to lose one of the three, which would you prefer? And the right answer is none of them.
Right.
If you're at 30,000 feet. So the way I treat answering some of these questions about life and business is that in terms of if I want a diminished capacity for emotional engagement or functionality or living values, my answer is always going to be, I want all three at high levels. And so when we sell to clients glassware, essentially for their top 100 customers, it's how do we use the awesome functionality? The glasses have thick rims and they feel great. And the style, it's a fun story to tell among your friends. And we help them live their values. At the same time, I am the type of person who supports creative reuse through recycling and material collections. I am the type of person who has stylish products in my home. I'm the type of person who loves functional utility. It's like a heavy watch. I made this watch out of my last pair of boots. How something feels, it's like thick and heavy. This is a machine pen, is important to me, style, function, and purpose. So my answer is always, I want to have all three at the same time. And I want to provide that for, I call them our constituents because they vote with their dollars. Our customers, our distributors like you, Roger, who have tens of thousands or however many products to choose from in Sage and ESP to offer people, but they have 5 slots in their pitch. And they choose to pitch us because very few products in promo are made in the USA. The vast majority are made in China, like high 90s in percentile, and having the story capacity of using the hero's journey to not. So I'm not even Obi-Wan Kenobi in this scenario. I'm the lightsaber manufacturer. You're Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? Your client is Luke Skywalker, right? And their clients are the Ewoks, and he just saved their village or whatever, So I'm a couple.
You've finally done it. You've cracked the code. You are the lightsaber factory. My God, we've literally finally, we've by Jove, I think we've got it. The man is the lightsaber factory. And, you got to know some special technology to be able to manufacture lightsabers that are up to Jedi standard. So, I mean, that's not that's an all or nothing here. I mean, I love it.
So in the product world, it's all about differentiation. And I spend a lot of time working on our packaging and collateral to let the box tell the story, because you're not going to be there, nor is the gifter, if we're drop shipping, to tell the story.
Right.
And the story has to be self-evident. It has to tell itself and to make them feel ownership and a part of the solution in people's lives, and people signing POs, signing checks, whatever, ordering stuff from other people are busy and they can't even make it to all their kids' soccer games, and go to the gym and talk to their best friend once a week. So we're dealing with busy people where you have to understand the aspect of humanness in the design, the initial design. And that's what I'm the captain of that ship for us here, of being the head lightsaber manufacturer, designer, packager, for us to give other people to win their key relationships that's justifying the dollars being spent. And it's so hard to find something that people will keep, use, and talk about often for years.
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff it gets one and done, just used and discarded.
Well, and for a company like ours who has a tagline on YouTube that says keeping your brand out of the trash since 2019, I mean, we're taking it a step further and saying, like, we will challenge you to do something outside of what our recommendations are if you're going to do business with us, because We believe that we've done enough to earn the right to have our recommendations have that kind of weight. Because if the objective really is to protect your logo from the waste stream, then you need to hire someone that should be able to give you advice on what's right and what's wrong when it comes to that. So I think that's going to require some growth on the part of some of the sales people in our industry. But you and I both know, based on just the sheer volume of activity that you're witnessing and how it's growing exponentially, day over day at this point, that the appetite for that conversation, where we're not just necessarily talking about a sustainability play here. We're talking about a product that touches on senses in multiples in
Mm-hmm.
ways that makes it desirable by the people who we're trying to impress in the first place. And that is so hard to do in our space that
Oh,
it's largely what's driving a lot of that activity. And that's so gratifying for me to see as somebody who's kind of been watching the journey from the opening stage of the play, to see how much it's grown in this amount of time, for sure.
yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So, part of the beauty of the growth is your ability as its founder to now not necessarily just even look over your shoulder for a moment, but to turn full 180 degrees, put your hands on your hips, and kind of look at the journey to this point. Knowing that, like, you had your moment in a trip around the world that kind of was your aha, I think I have this, to today, where you make a joke about having replicated the problems that you created for yourself in the first iteration of your life.
It's very different. I'm the chess player now, not a piece being played. It's very the attachment to is very different.
How was what you took with you in your aha moment carried you through to today? That bag's been with you since the day you stepped out the door. How do you feel about that bag that you're carrying at this vantage point?
So the way it makes the most sense to me is I overinvested in this is the path multiple times in all three different areas. So when I was an engineer, I had overinvested in functional utility, and pure logic. Just money and the job was going to make me happy, and it ended up not. I actually did everything I wanted to do within 5 years, in terms of my path, and that was kind of devastating for me. I thought that I had the answer and I didn't have the answer. And so when I went on the trip around the world right after that for a year, doing my 21 countries and 39 cities, I overinvested in just, I'm going to do cool stuff and see the world and have experiences. Wouldn't call on full on hedonistic, but I was kind of seeing how everyone else did things. Some Buddhist cultures are so kind and they seem like happy people often when they have very little. And so many people around the world do things differently than we do in the West. And it was fascinating to see it. And I had bears in awesome places and went surfing. And so it wasn't terrible by any means, but I ended up feeling unproductive towards the end, the last 3 months of the year. And I didn't want to kind of float around, even though it was one of the best times of my life anymore. And so I wanted to do something with purpose. In the first iteration of Refresh Class, it started with the 1 million bottle rescue mission, and then we hit it, and now it's 10 million, and soon it'll be 1 billion, but the thing that's so important for me now is the biggest aha out of all of them, because I've been on this same iteration for a long time. Whether it's Plato's beautiful, beauty, truth, and goodness, it's ontologically one, which is a very fancy way of saying you can't have one without the other. You can't pull one out of the recipe. It's always going to be a part of life no matter what you're doing. So when you eat food, you want it to be delicious, nutritious, and responsibly sourced. If you're pairing with another human to be your life partner, you want them to be funny, intelligent, and have good moral values. So I'm using the same concepts, just with different synonyms appropriate for the context.
Yep.
And the same thing is true for your position at work. Or if you're an investor, you want to get dividends and get paid. You want something that you believe in, and you want it to help the community at the same time. And so you can use different synonyms for that all the way across an organization, whether you're an employee, an investor, or a vendor, or whatnot. So the same thing happens to be true over and over and over again. And what I've worked to do with Refresh Glass, which I'm working to make into Refresh Metals and Refresh Plastics. And it's going to happen because so many people are going to benefit, whether it's waste management or the EPA or the promo community, by Charlie and our team doing that. It's just to do the same thing over and over again, and to make the person using our product the ultimate hero of the story.
It's the lightsaber factory, when equipped with a knowledgeable teacher, makes for one hell of a Jedi. So it gives us, one more place to go find a tool that we don't have to go shopping on the internet for lightsabers anymore. And the true Jedi trainers know where to find the best materials to help young Jedi on their journey. So for me, there's a visceral outcome when we connect those three synonyms that you just described with the thing inside the people that want to buy from us really are trying to get at, but can't articulate.
Yep.
And when we're good at it, it's the kind of relationship that person will never, they'll never call anybody else. They'll never ask you how much. They're just, I know that I'm doing it with him or her because, oh my God, like, it's like they're in my head. That's what I hear sometimes. Like, how did you know how to get in there and get that out of there? Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of time to be in that position. And it takes, and it's something that you brought up that I want to kind of, as we turn in the corner and heading for home here, it's absent just selling your product to every single person and getting into a fight with people who tell me no. The objective really is to not have to start this process over anew with every single client who comes in the door. It is not scalable as a business person. You can't achieve the revenue objectives you want to if every single time somebody wants to buy something, you have to start from scratch. Period. Yeah, and to me, when the product are great, the people are excellent, the narrative is correct, you stand behind your product, and it's stuff that people more often than not in all of the games I can put in front of people to make that outcome happen, like yours has a disproportionately high success rate. Mm-hmm. So when we try to think about like the safety in making one choice, that's a great one. Instead of trying to come up with a good idea constantly, is the thing that I want to get people to wrap their brains around. If you love Refresh Glass, just find more reasons to give it away. Don't buy other stuff. Like, just find more reasons to give this stuff away, and take the narrative around the product and tie it to the story in a way that makes it meaningful. And whether that's the onboarding kit for your new hires or the thank you gift for the client that just spent 10 grand with you, mm-hmm. Product doesn't have to necessarily change. It's my whole point, Ray. It's about efficiency and productivity with a purpose orientation gives you the ability and the confidence to be able to be more creative in the use of the products instead of trying to come up with new creative all the time. That's it. I'll leave it alone. Does it make sense? Am I off in left field here, or does that make sense to you?
No, it totally makes sense. That's what people want. Too many people gift quid pro quo, like I'm gifting something because I expect something in return. And what people really want is something that helps them in their life on their journey.
Yes.
and there's a difference in the approach, and people can tell. I always joke around about like smelling it like a fart in a car. It's off, and it's so noticeable. It's hard not to comment on about
Right.
how bad some people are. Is like, thank you for your order. Let me know when we can have another one. Here's a gift.
Right. Right.
That's what it comes off sounding like so often. And people don't want to do it unless it drives their benefit, and it's just not the way that people react. That's not what makes people want to do more for you.
Yeah.
It lacks the authenticity and genuine aspect.
So we're at the 1/8 pole. We're almost to the finish line. It's time to sprint. So yours is such a unique viewpoint because of like the nature of the way that you've come at the work. So I'm just as intrigued as I'll get out as what you would offer as advice to the uninitiated, to somebody who maybe just trying to get out in the marketplace and figure out how to participate in a way that is consistent with who they are as a person. Like, where do you send them? How do you start them?
Well, one of the my biggest one of the most disappointing things for me is how business has been framed as, leave your emotion at home, don't bring emotion to work, because you can't take it out of people. People quit jobs because they don't feel appreciated or they don't feel heard. And these are all emotional reasons and emotional words that people use of why they left. But then people don't incorporate emotion into their workplace.
Right.
If anything goes sideways, the number one thing I asked my leads or our crew is, how do you feel? Like, how did that make you feel? What do you think we should do? And I've kind of trained my team to always come to me with, just vent. And I'm very good at validating people and letting them feel heard. And then give me 3 options of what you think we should do, even though a lot of times they want me to fix it.
Right.
So I guess my advice would be that in so many different ways in our world, people frame things in a binary way. Are you Democrat? Are you Republican? Are you looking for a job that makes you feel good or one that makes you money? Do you want to be a teacher or do you want to be a stockbroker? There's, the emotional leaning on one and the logical leaning and make a lot of money on the other. My answer is always that all 3 will always be present. And unless you're looking for all 3, something's going to feel missing.
Mm-hmm.
So someone else will tell you that there's 5. It's kind of like book authors. Start with why, start with what, start with when, whatever. What I think people really need to have is more complexity of the fact that you want all of them at the same time. And culture doesn't eat strategy for breakfast. You need strategy too. You need values, people who do what they say that they're going to do, from an employer standpoint and from a client standpoint, all the way across the spectrum in your waking hours. That's what people want, personally, professionally, and from themselves, which is the hardest one of,
right.
Am I showing up the way I want to show up? And once people have that additional complexity, understanding that they want it all at the same time and not being shy about, I want a job that makes me feel good and not just pays me every 2 weeks direct deposit or whatever it is. Once they can articulate that, and that's okay for them and the people they're providing solutions to, I think the better it's going to get for all of us.
There's Devin Salvagno gave a presentation at an event that I participated in not too long ago. And what he was talking about was the Great Resignation. And his hypothesis has much to do with what he perceives the generation that is entering the workforce now post-pandemic saw happen during the Great Recession to their parents. Parents who prior to that were living the old paradigm, working long hours and, missing out on things that the kids were doing because for sake of the job. And then the whole world fell apart. So this group of people has said, I'm not going to linearly trade my time for money. I will consider my time a value that can be exchanged, but money is only one of the considerations that I will factor into the exchange of my time. And I find it fascinating. And I think it's 100% correct, because too many people were doing too many jobs where they were putting up with too much shit, that once they got a chance to see that, like, oh, if I'm going to be broke, I might as well not do that shitty job I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
And let me figure out what are the things that I do like. And that's why you're seeing people job hop, because they don't know exactly what it is. They just know it wasn't that.
Yeah.
You know? So
most people can't articulate it.
It's a really interesting time. And I think what we do, if done well with the right partner at the client side, we have the ability to help them tell a story that could ultimately be the difference between someone making a choice to work there or not, period.
Sure.
And to know that you and I are armed with that ability and that power is very humbling to me. And it also is what drives me to get up every single day and talk to more people, because when we do it right, like we talked about, and those three things come together for that person who receives it, we win every single time. So where can they find you, Charlie? Where do you want people to go looking for? Where do I want to, Charlie? Ray?
No, they should actually call Charlie, not me.
Charlie, right?
So
that's exactly. Perfect. I'm leading the witness. So, well, actually, probably call me first, and then
there you go.
I'll call.
And then
Charlie.
you'll call Charlie. There you go.
Yeah. But any you want to drop any hints about anything that my people might want to know about if they were to be watching this, and like little insider baseball, something?
Sure, I'll send it to you. We just launched a 1-pack. I designed a cardboard box that's in the shape of a wine bottle that folds into the 1-pack. It's really cool.
See,
talking to some of the top sustainability packaging people about doing another podcast with them on the design and cardboard and everything. But Refresh Glass, Refresh Glass promo, get all the catalogs through you. We have a bunch of fun stuff for all different price point package levels. And then DelMuro.com, I have a lot of my public speaking and artwork and photography and engineering. We've gotten a lot of press. We're very fortunate. Inc. and Forbes and MSNBC and a bunch of the fun people have done stories on us in the past. If anyone wants to read something.
Not to mention the So Good interviews. You're one of the first to be covered in the documentary series.
Right.
You were the feature story in Red Goldfish promo edition, and you're sort of the when we make our presentations, Marketing with Purpose, we always leave one last story for the end, and it's always you. So got a big fan over here at Social Good Promotions. Ray, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Thanks, Roger. Appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you out on the road again sometime real soon.
Yeah, I'll see you in January at the ceremony.
That's correct. You will. See you then.
All right, buddy. See you.